part of my own backstory, so to speak, is that I grew up in Kenya, East Africa. Now, one of the, we're not going to call it talents, but we're going to call it a good hobby that I picked up while I was over in Africa was I taught myself how to do magic tricks. Well, as you can imagine, that created quite a stir in Kenya, East Africa. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have my dad tell you one of my favorite stories from that time.
A few weeks later, I was around Ennis, and I told him I really appreciated him inviting Kenny to come and be a part of the teaching of the Bible that Sunday. And he said, preacher, we don't need to be thanking each other. We need to thank God that he came. And I asked him, well, what do you mean? Not that I was against thanking God for Ken being able to come, but he said, well, about 3 weeks after he was there, there was an old witch doctor came, and the witch doctors come around to the villages, he says, and they go through different things, and they use magic tricks to scare the people if they kind of act like they're not going to believe them. And he said it just so happened that the very trick that Ken had taught the children how to do was the one the magician had learned, and he went through it there and thought he just had them scared silly. And a little boy standing up in front of him, standing there when he got through, he looked up and said to him, well, we're not afraid of you. Mr. Duncan's boy showed us how to do that here in our church. And he just went through it one piece after the other, just as the old magician had, and showed him up in front of everybody. He stomped the ground real good, turned, and headed out of the village, and he said, we haven't seen him since.
Now here is a trick that I started doing in Kenya, East Africa, with a little piece of cardboard with some arrows drawn on it. Today's version, I think, is a little cooler because I've got a laser. I'd like to do a little presentation that I refer to as Heaven, Hell, Hope, and a Free Gift. Now that involves this little disc here. It's just an ordinary wooden disc. Well, except the fact that it's a laser cut disc, which makes it very, very cool. And of course, a cell phone, which most everybody has in their pocket. Now, unfortunately, most people that you talk to think that the way you get into heaven kind of works on a big old set of scales in the sky. And if you do enough good stuff, that you'll get in. Of course, they're pretty clear that if you do enough bad stuff, or if you're doing this kind of bad stuff, well, we're pretty sure where you're going to go. To hell. So, bad stuff, hell. But they think that by that great scale theory, that if they do enough good stuff, that they can end up in heaven. Unfortunately, as you can see, that's not true, because they're still going down. Even though they do some good stuff, they end up going down. Which leads us to the question of, how exactly do we know if we're doing enough good stuff? And there's some well-meaning churchgoers out there, been going to church all their life, that think if I just get just a straight enough arrow enough, that I'll be able to do enough good stuff, that I'll be able to end up in heaven. And as you can see, that's not really the case, because you end up going backwards. Well, that's kind of frustrating, to say the very least. You're going backwards, and you kind of wonder, well, where's the real answer to that? Well, where do we usually go when we ask the real answer to anything? Most of us are going to go to our cell phone and we're going to Google it. So in other words, we're going to Google, how do I get to heaven? Ends up, Google has about 20 million answers to that, none of them that are exactly right. I hope, through use of this little wooden disc, to see if I can help clear that up for you. So here we go. We got you trying to do that right enough thing, and then we say, how do I get to heaven? We turn it over, and we find out that the only real way we can get to heaven is by accepting Jesus' perfect gift of grace on the cross for us. You see, he died for us so that we could go to heaven. And it's a free gift. There's nothing we've done to deserve it. So you look at that and you go, man, okay, Jesus does love me. He loves me an awful lot. But you got to start asking about that love, and you go, what exactly is love? I mean, people love pizza. And that's where we bring in the phone tech gadget. We go to the camera app, and we pull up that, turn it over, and look, there's a QR code. And that QR code takes us to a Bible video that tells us about the true meaning of love. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Remember, stay safe and stay creative out there. We'll catch you guys on the flip side.